Okay, so this is the export that you all have from our SOPs.
Y'all, this is the exact list we use internally, by the way. There is nothing, the only thing I removed are things that link to like internal videos or documentation that wouldn't even apply to you. This is exactly what we use. Nothing held back. Sorry, John, keep going.
No worries. And so you'll see that there's like 7-day recurring tasks. And this is something that we use internally. This is how we manage campaigns. This is everything that we follow. And I want to kind of briefly go through this, because if anybody's going to use this document to optimize their own campaigns, and this is going to be for all campaigns, so there's a lot here. This is a way for you to identify, okay, is there anything here that I don't understand? And I hope this is a good way to go about this, rather than just kind of, just doing it and then you're looking at this document saying, well, that is what John covered and that kind of stuff. So I want to have some sort of structure so that if you're following this without us here, you understand what each one of these points are. So the first one, and I'm just going to go through these. So the budget and main KPI goal can be viewed in Airtable database. This is what you would want to have for yourself, which is Airtable is a tool that we use to identify all clients, because we have like 140 of them, so we can't just like memorize everybody's KPI. But you're going to need to have your own KPI, your own key performance indicator that something is or not working. So you need to have your ROAS goal. You need to have possibly a target CPA. You need to understand what those goals are. That's first and foremost. Without goals, we actually can't take on clients. If you say, yeah, I'm not really sure what my ROAS needs to be, we can't take you on, because if we get a year down the road and 300 you're losing money, we get fired and you lose money, and it's a bad idea. So you need to have what those goals are. That's first and foremost. Everything is goal driven, period. If it's not identified and easily followed, don't do it yet. So day one of that viability study needs to be hammered out. We'll skip this part here because this is internally. Check and optimize cost per acquisition and ROAS bid versus target. This is check if the target CPA bid is an actual line with the CPA and optimize accordingly. Fairly self-explanatory. Make sure that what your target CPA bid is what you're getting. If your target CPA bids are too low and your CPA is coming in too high, that would be the first thing that we'd want to check to see why is that target CPA, why are we not achieving the target CPA? When running broad, and I'll move over towards a campaign that I've made a big update here. This is Google's not working. Give me 1 second. I'm going to share a client, and I want to share a small little case study that can really show you the power of target CPA and how effective it can be when you're up and running and you're optimizing. Oh man, Google. There we are. This is a company called Biopharma. Pretty difficult industry to work in, but target CPA is extremely, extremely effective. And I'm going to go into change history, because I want to see exactly when I did my update here. My target CPA decreased from $41 down to $18 on May 12th. So if we look on May, let's say 13th through, I don't know, the 19th, compared to the previous period, you'll see that my course categories where I dropped my target CPA, my cost per acquisition went down by 33%. So my cost per conversion went from $22 down to $14. Now here's when you're making optimizations for target CPA, here's what happens. When you're bringing down your cost per acquisition, you're going to notice that the cost also decreases a lot. And this is where target CPA is a very restricted model. Target CPA can work. When you're up and running, it works. If you have a lot of irrelevancy, target CPA is where you're going to want to start first rather than negative keywords when you're running broad. I'll give you a good example why. When you start to drop the target CPA, you're going to spend a lot less, but your cost per acquisition is going to go down quite a bit. And your conversion rate can go up to 10% and shot up 15%. Awesome. Target CPA is going to be where Google's machine learning basically says, do I know the type of people who are going to convert? And do I also know the type of people that are more middle of the funnel or top of the funnel? The higher the target CPA goal, the more your campaign can run. And previously, a really good strategy for getting target cost per acquisition down is not necessarily reducing the target CPA. It was adding negative keywords. The bad part about adding negative keywords when you're running a pure broad campaign, which is what we discussed, is that a pure broad campaign using pure broad keyword and a negative keyword acts very dangerously with each other. I'll give you an example. Red shoe broad match. I'm gonna use red shoe again. Red shoe broad match can show up for red high heel. And you may say, well, red high heel is not what I have on my website. I have tennis shoes, but I have red tennis shoes and that's all I sell. So I'm going to add a negative keyword of red high heel. Well, Google said, well, red shoe and red high heel, that's the same thing to me. That's why I gave you that search term. So if you're going to exclude red high heel, red shoe is just going to stop showing, because Google's using categorical keywords now. They're using the topics rather than the exact keywords. This still actually even has a small effect if you add the negative keyword as an exact. So we've been testing this now for months, and each time I test it, I still cannot get this to work properly. But essentially what this is when you add a negative keyword, just think about how that broad keyword can go broad. That negative keyword can also go broadly negative, and sometimes give you negatives that you didn't want them to be negative, because Google said, well, you said red high heel, that's red shoe, that's red slipper, that's red sandal. Those are all broadly matched. So we're just going to stop all of those. So from an optimization standpoint, if you have a lot of irrelevancy in the campaign, start to tweak your target CPA first. That's going to cover your kind of your main search campaign first part of optimization from a keyword perspective. Before, you can simply say, well, if we add that as a negative exact match or a negative phrase match, and that won't show up for that specific one anymore, and now I should be safe. It's actually starting to now push away positive keywords, where you type in an ad preview and diagnosis. If you haven't used that tool, I highly recommend it. Ad preview and diagnosis is a great tool to understand what keywords you're possibly missing out on, or what keywords you're missing, or you have. To see if I can. Oh, man, this is so slow. I'm so sorry, everyone. This should be pulling up keywords. GCP courses. So ad preview and diagnosis. GCP courses. I'm not sure exactly. This isn't the my account. I don't even know if that's a keyword right now. Anywho, you can type in the positive keyword that you have, and you'll see that if a negative keyword, even if it's not closely related, can say, hey, this negative keyword that's not even exactly your phrase match or exact match or broad keyword, it's blocking that one from starting. So you'll see that odd keywords that you added as a negative are stopping your positive ones. That's the most dangerous thing that I think Google has done recently. It's never been like that. It only started in November of this last year. So, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. Google recently had their big annual event where they said, hey, this is how keywords are function now. Broad match gets you really, really close topically, and phrase match gets you fairly close specifically. That I don't exactly remember how they placed it, but it's like, that's just wrong. The keyword match types are pretty much going away now. There's going to be a new keyword match type coming out called smart match. And that's going to be something that you guys can choose. And smart match basically means let Google decide what's the relevant keywords and what are not, but you have to be using automated bidding. So we might not be together when you see smart match come out, when that new keyword comes out, but just know that smart match is going to be basically the new keyword that everyone's going to be having to use. And broad match modified has already gone away. Broad match is going to be pretty much turned into smart match, and phrase exact match are probably going to be deprecated within the next 1 or 2 years, I would imagine. So when you're looking at negative keywords, there's a lot of literature, because it's been like that for a decade now, of how to add negative keywords. The first thing you'll want to do is look at how to start to optimize your keywords. I'll pull up another campaign that we are doing this now. This one here, we have a company that is a SaaS company that is managed services. And this managed services company has a good LTV, so they can afford to spend a lot of money to acquire new trials. Let's go like the last 30 days here.
You just use Soma's comment, no negative keywords at DSA at all, just lower TCPA instead.
Yeah, I would say lower TCPA first, because what's going to happen is lowering your CPA. Let me pull up the chat because I didn't see that here. Hold on. I have to click this button and go over there. There we go. What's going to happen with TCPA is rather than the negative keyword giving you less results, CPA is going to say, well, we tried that 3 times, it didn't work, so don't show up for that anymore. That's where when I talk about safety nets, that's what the safety net is letting CPA goals push away the bad searches for you based on them not meeting those goals. Over time, your target CPA will normalize and you're going to start to get better and better results. That capital funding DSA campaign that I showed you, we're on target CPA and we're getting 30% conversion rates because that's been up and running for about 8 months now. And it's performing really, really well because it's been learning. I have very little negative keywords. I think I have 2 negative keywords in that whole account. And one was a brand and one was a competitor. Those are okay. But topically, I couldn't add any negative keywords. We kept accidentally killing the campaign. Same thing with here. This company here, we're using target CPA of $450 cost per conversion, and right now we're getting about 627 and 555. So it's a little bit high. We've been bringing it down, and we've been bringing it down consistently, and that's where you kind of see the clicks start to drop off, and the conversion staying fairly high. So last 7 days, let's see what that looks like now. That's time lag. We go last 7 days here. So yeah, now it's going down to 420 and 507. So it's going down further, and it's right in line about 450 words what we need, which gives us a good, 307 ROAS. So here, what you'll see is that the keywords in my search campaigns, we'll click on search campaigns, look at keywords. What you're going to want to do, this is how you're going to optimize prior to adding any sort of negative keywords. If you have if you're showing up a lot for a lot of searches that you're just like, these are just not really good searches and you have to have them as a negative keyword, test it, because it's not always going to be a bad idea. It's just usually you want to try this first. Here's my pure broad keywords. And what you want to do is look at a fairly large date range. Fairly large date range is because this, pretty much every campaign is going to have a pretty sizable conversion lag. I'll share with you what that looks like here. This one has 11-day conversion lag. So pretty much anything that happened in the last 11 days, I'm kind of waiting on, which is why I had to go back, at least 7 days to see what my actual CPA was. But when you're looking at keywords, choose at least a 2-month range. That's why you need to have, a good amount of data before you start making a lot of optimizations, because you need to have a lot of data to see, am I going to pause this one or am I not going to pause this one? Here's what I like to do: sort by cost. And what you'll see is in the cost, I have keywords here like service management software that I spent $8 grand on and got 5 conversions, and my cost per conversion is $1,600. That's way too high. You don't have to say, is it falling at my KPI and below? You just need to see, is it way above my KPI, and should I shut it off? Now, there's some here that the client wants to run because they say, no, it's extremely relevant, so just show up for it even if the cost per conversion is too high. But looking at what the cost per conversion is here, and I'll share with you this here, because this is going to be an advanced technique that you're going to want to look at: cost per conversion versus cost per conversion by time. When you have time lag, you can see the differences: 858, 1,000. You sometimes will see very larger, a lot larger cost per acquisition when you don't have time lag, or when you're looking at the time lag enabled column. And I'll go through that here in a moment. But looking at sorting by cost down, you're going to see, where did I spend the most amount of money on? And what is driving up my CPA? Is it relevant? No, it's too broad. That's what's getting us the irrelevancy. Is this relevant? Well, it's MSP and RMM. So is this one? Yeah, this one's a little bit too broad. And so we're going to shut that one off. This is a little bit more relevant. So I'm going to continue to test this one. This campaign's only been on since February. So that's why I haven't started shutting off more yet. As you go about your optimizations, rather than adding in the negative keywords, simply shut off the broad keyword, because by adding the one negative keyword, you'll notice that these keywords can sometimes go so far and so wide that you would never understand like why those things are happening. So like our MSP software, Autotask, IT managed services software, Kaseya, that's a competitor. Google's actually going after my competitors because they know that this competitor is an IT managed services software. So you'll see that your negative keyword might not even have any effect when you're going pure broad, Because if I say IT management services software and I add this one as a negative, that's one of the 10,000 searches it could have showed up for. Is that going to have an impact in your campaign? No, probably not, because you're gonna optimize one 10,000th of a search term better. So by looking at how the keywords are interacting with other search terms, and you'll see that these are going really, really far and wide. By adding negative keywords, you don't really make a dent. But what you do have a good control over is if that keyword is delivering a lot of irrelevancy and it's not converting. I don't care if I have irrelevancy if it's converting. But if I have a lot of irrelevancy that's not converting, that's a way to identify what is too irrelevant and not converting. And my search top impression share is very low, which means I can spend a lot of money on this keyword, and it probably will because Google thinks that it's at least somewhat relevant and it's falling closely enough in line with my CPA. Well, if I'm getting 550 and I need to get 450, by shutting off $8,000 worth of wasted spend and saving $1,600 of conversion, that money is going to be reallocated to the broad keywords here that are still delivering exactly what I need for the most amount of my conversions. All that money is going to go back to what is performing better. So the old optimization was, phrase and exact, and then start adding phrase and exact keywords, SCAGs, single keyword ad groups, and being very specific about it. That still is a viable strategy, but it stops scale. When you go broad, you can optimize for the keywords that are still bringing sometimes a lot of irrelevancy, but will convert. And this is the best part. You have crazy amount of scale. I can spend $2,500 a day in this one campaign if I wanted to. And in this campaign, I can spend $1,600 a day. That's just the next kind of rungs up the ladder. So in this, I can spend $105,000 since April, May, and June, or April, May. June's not, I'm not looking at June just yet, and deliver a good amount of scalability. Knowing that I really could kind of care less if these people are signing up for a free trial, if they're somewhat relevant. But the only thing I'm doing is now just simply shutting off my keywords. Your optimizations actually become a little bit easier. Using target CPA as your safety net, shutting off your high spend keywords first, reallocating the money to the broad keywords that are in line with your target CPA and are still running and have good scalability will deliver you better results. Let's see here. Do you guys ever follow Google's recommended budget increases? Sort of. I use them as lead indicators. So what this means is that if I look at, here's where I'm going to be spending, do a quick calculation. So pull out your calculator and then look at, okay, I'm spending 900 and it wants me to spend $2,000 per day. Okay, so that means I have, and I'll just do really simple math for everyone, $2,000 minus 900, that's $1,100 per day. So that's, if I look at now the next column, what does it think I'm going to be able to get as a weekly conversion? Well, 4 to 5 more weekly conversions. Well, that's going to come in at $200 more cost per conversion. If this here, when you look at, okay, for 4 more conversions, and it cost me $4,000 more per week for $1,100 more per day, this is indicative that I'm going to get more conversions, but it's not looking too good. If this looked like, oh, that's pretty close to my goal, then yeah, I'll actually go up there, because it doesn't mean that it's going to get a worse performance. Sometimes you'll spend more and you'll actually get more conversions at a cheaper cost per conversion. What this just means is that using a pure broad strategy, it says, hey, I have a lot more money to spend, and there's not going to perform as well as the other keywords that you have going on, but I can get those conversions, and it's just going to cost you more. So what you want to look at here is, well, I still have more work to do before I can start to scale. I still have more irrelevancy. I can spend more, but Google's going to decide where to place that money. And some of those keywords, as you saw, was above goal. So if I add more money, those above goal keywords are gonna get that money. So what I look at is, if it doesn't look like it's going to be a good scenario, if it's like, man, I really don't want to spend, I'm trying to get down in CPA. I'm at 450. I want to be close to like 350, 400 as possible. I can't just add more budget and then shoot that back up to 6. The client will not be happy. So I need to continually remove those keywords. And I'm doing that all the time. I have to remove those keywords. And then after I keep removing those keywords, and I'm only left with the really good keywords that are performing really, really well, and I have at least 2 to 3 weeks worth of performance, then I'll start to scale. Because what's nice about going pure broad again is you'll see that my search impression share is, oops, just my search impression share on the keywords that I have left enabled, I have a lot of room to grow. This is, good cost per conversion. I'm only tapping in 1/3 of the market. $200 cost per conversion, great. I'm only tapping in 40% of the market. I can look at what my cost per conversion is and say, yeah, this one's a little bit high. I would like to shut these off, but this is what the client wants. These are looking really, really good. I'm getting close to scale. Now, as I go down, I'm like, that one's still too high. It is relevant, but that one's still too high. I'll probably shut that one off. And you start to dwindle the keyword list. And what's nice about this is, hey, this one here, MSP Solutions, it's got $230 conversions, great. 6 leads, great. And I'm only 18% tapped out of that keyword. I can scale this one up a lot. I just need to start to shut off the ones that are spending too high before I start to scale. So it's a big change. And Michael Johnson, this is probably something that you're like, well, that's not what you would normally do. You're kind of more veteran. You're like, this is odd. You want to do more kind of like SCAG and negative keyword. And this is what I found is just been what works. Yeah, this is so hard. I know it is really hard. But what's kind of cool is looking at the scalability, because here's a great example. When we first started this in January, this is the model that we use now starting January, because November is when it says, hey, this is what's going to happen. January 1st to 31st, I had 3 keywords. Buy hammock, purchase and order hammock. This is what we covered in 3x Shopify. Those buy, purchase, and order. 3 keywords. I spent 200, 165. And what did we make here? So what is this? 450, so about $700. And we made 2,000, 1,300. So it was a great return. And the search terms were even more ridiculous. Hammock without stand. Buy hammock, a sale. Oh, a sale. So hammock without stand made me money. Hammock with stand, they also bought. It doesn't matter. I really don't care if I like what I'm searching for or what they're searching for, as long as they buy. So in e-commerce, it gets really, really good, because I could say, listen, as long as you're getting me a cost per acquisition under X, keep going. And then since January through May, those keywords have grown to 17 keywords with 3 not working, so 14 keywords. And those 14 keywords now, which I couldn't do in SCAG, I spent 100 grand and then made 679,000 with a 685 ROAS of 14 keywords. Again, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. And then you're looking at, well, my cost per conversion is $43. Well, that's great. I told Google, go ahead and spend to the moon on anything you think is relevant at all. And you're getting me $43 sales. I need to be under 60. So my target CPA was 60, got $43 conversions, and I'm spending $3,500 a day now. So that's where this gets really good. When we're running, SCAG and phrase exact, you tap out really quickly, because you're like, hey, this exact keyword works, but I've tapped it out. I'm only able to spend like $300 a day. Going pure broad, it says I'll match it to anything, and I'll be able to scale you to the moon, because I have 1,000 different search terms that are now kind of exact, but they'll fall underneath that target CPA. So in terms of optimizations, when you have your search campaign, that's why I struggle with. SCAG's got me really good ROI, but couldn't scale. Yep. Yeah. And then Google, I think, kind of noticed that. So they just said, well, this is closely relevant. And so they gave you that. So to set you up for success long-term, when you go pure broad with your safety net of target CPA, you can scale. You can scale pretty well. And this is even limited. It's like, hey, there's 381 other keywords you should go after. Well, I know that. I have 14 and it's giving me good, good 685 ROAS. I'm good for now. I'm still scaling. It's okay. So any questions there with how you're now going to be making keyword adjustments? That is one part of target CPA. So the search terms, review and qualify. The add negative keywords, I wanted to touch upon that because this is where this gets this gets touchy. The adding negative keywords we talked about. If you need to add negative keywords, add it after your campaign is performing really, really well. After you've removed all the irrelevant keywords that you are purposely bidding on, then you can add negative keywords, but then use the ad preview diagnosis tool to say, is one of my positive search keywords no longer functioning? That's first and foremost. If it is, remove that negative keyword. Google will just simply stop showing you for that search term. Add positive search terms that we are not bidding on as keywords. So if you look at their search term list and you see, ma'am, this broad keyword that I have always delivers me just really good. This one search term always functions really, really well. Each time someone enters that in, it's got a lot of impressions, a lot of clicks, and I need to start bidding on it more and more. And that's when you're in this one here, we found that, you know, the backyard hammock was delivering us good results. So people were for buy hammock, order hammock, and purchase hammock, backyard hammock was delivering good results. Every single time we looked through our search terms, we're like, man, this one is just working really, really well. Add that as a broad negative keyword, and then it will start to spend. This one spent like $8,000, and let's see what it did. Yeah, it got us 46,000. Look at the search terms. If it is a good positive search term, that, I mean, when I say positive search term, which means if it's a good search term that's positive for you, it's in goal, it's in line, it's looking good, add that as a positive keyword. So you want to review your search terms, say, you know, I'm looking through here and it's like, man, this one is just working really, really well. Then add that as your positive search term here. That will allow you to then scale. Don't do this too much because you can add a lot of irrelevancy. You want to see the ones that have really good consistency. So kind of going back to when we started to do this, we look at in January and look at the search terms. What you're going to want to look for is, okay, so this one had hammocks, just the most broad keyword in the world, had a good amount of impressions, had a good amount of clicks. I spent 20 bucks on it and I got $509. That's a lot of room to grow. My cost per acquisition, I need 60, I'm getting 7, you know, good. That has good volume and has some good conversion so far. This would be 3 just because I'm using a split conversion track or a split attribution model. So that's a way to identify that. That's going to be here. This one's here for us, add a code or negative keyword. It basically just allows our CMs and specialists to drop in a code so that people know that we're in there making changes. Sometimes we don't add negative keywords, but a lot of clients are like, hey, are you even watching the campaign? So we jump in there and just dump in a code. So this is really just for us. It's a way for us to show our clients, yep, we check every 3 days and we didn't need to add any negative keywords. Just because people are so ingrained in saying like, yeah, you should be adding 5, 10, 15 negative keywords per week. It's like, no, that can blow up the campaign. Check budget to ensure spend is on target. So here's what's really interesting. Google will spend money for you that if they overspend, will not charge you. That is something that a lot of people don't know. If you have your daily budget set to $100 and Google ends up spending $300 that day, and it overspends consistently for a little while, Google may show $500 in like ad spend, but only charge you $200. And so that's what is kind of a crazy thing that Google will do. But I'll give you a really specific example. In February, I think it was the 27th, in our display campaign, which is off now. Here, we had a $5 per day budget. And on this day here, it spent $280. And that's a crazy budget. And I can actually kind of prove that it was a $5 per day budget, just because if you look at the budget changes since we started this thing, this change here on February 23rd, I went from 15 down to 5. It was just starting off on my display campaign. I spent $5, it spent $280. Client called, freaked out, said, holy crap, why do we spend $280? We had a $5 day budget. Looking into the billing, let me just pause this here because I'm going in their billing. I don't want their credit card information showing. I'll get to it. Let me just double check to make sure I'm not going to give out anybody's information here. Okay, Yes, that should be fine. Here we go. Okay, I'm going to share my screen again. So how I got here is just under settings, transactions, and then choosing a date range for the transactions. It gives you this huge list. And here's where you're going to see display, no, right here, February 28th, display 693 clicks. When you look into here, this is a good illustration. Display, remember that February 27th I talked about where the served cost was 280? They billed me $8. So Google sometimes will overspend. Let it. It's okay. Let it overspend because it's not going to bill you for it. It's still going to show that you actually, quote unquote, spent $280. It just won't bill you for it. The reason why is when you look at the campaign here, let me go back. Does it jump? Whoa, it jumped really far back. Hold on. Back to level 8. You'll notice that when you hover over your campaign, it'll actually tell you what it's going to charge. So in June, because it's now, you won't be charged more than $152 for this campaign. That's real. It might spend $600. It will not charge you more than $152. This is basically not just a guidance. I say like, yeah, we're going to try to spend $152. No, this is what you will be charged if it does spend up to that budget. So when you're looking at check budget to ensure spend is on target, if you're overspending, just be mindful saying that's okay. Sometimes we'll overspend, but you will not actually physically charge your credit card for that. Do we have a chat?
Yeah, we've got two. One from Michael. When do you switch landing pages? If you find Blue Hammock's performing well, do you then add that keyword but send traffic directly to Blue Hammock product page instead of maybe the hammock category?
I send all traffic in yellow leaf to the home page.
Such breach of etiquette, but brilliant.
I know. Well, you know what's funny is those search terms. I wanted to. I wanted to say, well, let's just see what page I can get this most amount of relevancy from, and the homepage did the best. One of the things that's odd though is because it's now your smart shopping campaign is going to send. We're making crazy ROAS from the search campaign just by sending all traffic directly to the homepage. It doesn't make any sense, but you'll see my ads. Also, we're going to talk about auto applied. I usually hate these things, but I'll go there in a moment. But you can see that for pretty much all of my traffic, I have expanded text ad, responsive search ad is going right to the homepage. It doesn't make sense. Google's recommendations, every guru out there that tells you, oh, try this and try that and try this and try that. It's all becoming irrelevant now. It's the weirdest thing. So that's where, a lot of growth lean on machine learning. And that's why smart shopping, I think, is working really well. And then check this out. These auto applied suggestions, normally I say auto applied suggestions are terrible because this is one description. How is that? I mean, my responsive search ad is going to have way better results. I have $60 cost per conversion, $63 cost per conversion. The three that Google tried, 15, 24, 24. Dang it. These don't make sense. I don't like these things. I do test this though. I'm not one to say like, no, don't ever do anything Google says. No, we test everything. We test absolutely everything. And this auto applied suggestion, we spent, let me just see what the metrics are for the conversion value. Last 30 days, this one here is starting to gain more popularity. We spent $2,500 on it to make 57 grand. Yeah, Google's machine learning just says, hey, if you did what weatherproof and portable, that's what people want. I'm like, okay, let's try it. And then it just nailed it with a 4% conversion rate. And I don't even know what that ROAS is, something insane. So yeah, that's where looking at when you're looking at landing pages for the search campaign, consistently, the homepage always wins. I don't know why. Just because I think machine learning says, hey, this person's looking right now to buy. And if they go to your website, they're going to figure out what they like. Doesn't make sense. Check eligibility. Oh, and another thing too, with the ensure spending is on target, your bidding strategy is going to limit this. If you're using smart shopping and you're using target return on ad spend, what it basically says, what that is a restrictive bidding strategy says, don't spend one dime more unless you can meet that target. You'll be underspending. Target CPA, don't spend one dime more unless you can give me a cost per conversion under my CPA goal. Okay. Target ROAS in a non-shopping campaign. Don't spend one dime more unless you can get my target return on ad spend above X. So there's two different types of bidding strategies: expansive and restrictive. Expansive, maximize clicks, maximize conversions, manual CPC. They will spend the budget regardless. Oh, and target search impression share. The restrictive ones, target CPA, target ROAS. Those are the ones that are going to restrict traffic. So when you're looking at why is my budget not being met, look at your bidding strategy. If it's on a restrictive category and it's doing well, raise your goal. Like raise your target CPA, lower your target ROAS. Or sometimes, and this is something that everyone has to test, if you're getting good results and you're undershooting your target CPA goal, like, hey, I need $80 leads or $80 sales and you're getting 40, sometimes you can turn on maximize conversions. Like, yeah, let's just start to get expansive. I know. If it's overshooting the goals, sometimes you can use maximize conversions to really start to scale. This is if you cannot adjust your CPA goal to adjust more spend. So if you're getting $50 leads and your target ROAS or target CPA is 80 and you're not meeting your daily budget, sometimes just turning 80 up to 120 says, oh, okay, I can go from 50 to 70. It's a weird thing. Just by releasing the leash a little bit, you can allow your campaign to spend more money. So that's a few ways that you're going to be able to adjust your target. Just make sure you're very mindful of two things. What's my bidding strategy? What is my attribution model? Am I attributing enough value to this campaign for it to meet its goals? Using time decay, and you're running a brand campaign, time decay is going to give a bunch of attribution to the brand because that's where people most likely come back. But your smart shopping campaign can't meet its goal because it's not getting enough value. It's not getting enough attribution back to itself. Here's a big thing. Check eligibility of product ads and extensions. So there's a few things that we have internally here that may not apply. Are there more than 1,000 products? If so, alert the client manager as soon as possible. So essentially, there's a few things here that we have internally. If you have 1,000 products, a lot of times that's internally, we have a 90-day timeline that we'd like to say after 90 days, this will be working really, really well, or it won't. If you have more than 1,000 products, sometimes you need more than 90 days, or you need a lot more spend. So this really doesn't apply to you. This is why this is like, you're like, why do I need to alert someone? This basically just means like, hey, our normal 90 days might need to be extended because this is something that could be bad. This is pretty much good housekeeping items. So checking for eligibility and checking ads and checking extensions. A lot of times what will happen is you'll find that, 1K original products are including variants, original products. Well, all this means is that if you have $30 a day and you're smart shopping at $40 a day and you have 1,000 products, we're going to need a lot more time, or you're going to need a lot more time because Google's going to need to test those products and they'll test it individually, which means for 1 to 2 weeks, they'll start to give it traffic. If it doesn't work, it's going to die and then it's going to move on to something else and then start to give that traffic. And if it works, great, it'll work forever. If you have 1,000 products and it goes through the first 20 or 30 and doesn't find anything, that could take 2 months. And you're like, well, this isn't working yet. You need to give it more time. So just understand that the more, and I think we touched on this, the more products you have, the more time you need to give it.
A note there too, y'all, is if you try to guess at which products are going to be the most popular, generally speaking, you're going to be wrong. I don't think we've had a single client that's like nailed that. We had one that she has, I forgot what her SKU count is. I'm thinking of Keena. She's got 8,000 products, something. She gave us 350 because she's like, these are the only products that'll sell. So we built a campaign around those 350. It did okay. John finally got her to give us the entire SKU count. Not one of her list of 350 is in her top selling products now. Not one. And she's been doing this for, I mean, her dad started the company. So since she was a kid.
25 years ago.
Yeah. You're always going to be wrong. We're always going to be wrong. That's why you need to let the machine learning figure out where the conduits are. Or
you might be right, but there's going to be short life cycles. And so you're like, well, these just aren't doing it really well anymore. They used to. Google might have saturated those markets. So put all of them in there. But checking eligibility of product ads and extensions, just make sure nothing's disapproved. Just make sure everything's approved. Make sure you have no limitations. And what I mean by that is sometimes you'll have an ad that's like limited due to something. If you're we can't use the term Google Ads in our ad, it'll get limited performance because it's a trademark term. Google Ads is trademarked. So I can't say, well, we are awesome at Google Ads. We'll just say we're awesome at, SEM. We're good at PPC. I can't say Google Ads specifically because it'll only give me 1/10 of the traffic. Because like, hey, we'll let you run, but we're only going to get a drip of traffic because you're violating the trademark. Check all tracking codes and actions. This is something that you want to do. I can't tell you this yesterday. I had this issue yesterday, and I'll even share with you a real scenario. We had a campaign starting to fail. This was yesterday at 9 a.m. GTM remarketing tagger not installed on the website. It fell off of a client's website. All of a sudden, we had some really good performance, and the thing just tanked. Everything looked good. Nothing was disapproved. Nothing inside of Google Ads I could have seen tell me why that performance was bad. The client has a Shopify theme from a third party. The Shopify theme updated. It removed our tracking codes from its theme.liquid because it refreshed. Tracking remarketing was not working anymore. That's something that you're gonna have to watch for. If you see some oddities, don't be stuck in the rabbit hole of what inside of my Google Ads campaign needs working. Check everything. So all tracking codes and actions are fine. I can't tell you how often this happened. It just happened yesterday as an example. Happens all the time. So make sure that your tracking codes are there. Check Google Tag to ensure remarketing is firing more than 0% with ecom prod ID. This is huge. I'll give you a really good example. I know the date. It was fixed on the 7th. So this is where you'll see this is an issue. Let's look at the last 14 days. Tracking code, remarketing code fell off here. Look at this. Was fixed on the 7th here. And now we look at just like the 7th through the 9th. And I'll go through what ecom prod ID is. But now if I look at compared to the previous period, our ROAS is up 169%. It went from 198 up to 534. Ecom prod ID, what this is go into tools inside of audience manager and inside of audience sources. Hopefully it's not, yeah, there it is, it's fixed now. Google Analytics is now having an issue. Their website, again, lost tracking codes. So we have to get everything reinstalled. But you'll see something called ecom prod ID. See how right here on the 7th, all of a sudden start firing again. I'll remove everything else. There's ecom prod ID. Started firing on the 7th. Shot up my ROAS up past 500% now. It fell off sometime right before the end of the month. We had to get it fixed. What ecom prod ID is, this is how important this is. The product ID parameter that allows your dynamic ads to show to people exactly the product viewed on your website. This is 40% of your smart shopping campaign, is this one tag here. This is remarketing. This is dynamic remarketing. This is proactive targeting as well. This is machine learning. All of the people that go to your website, if they look at a product and they leave, this is what shows that item to them to get them back on all 5 channels Google. It's what develops time lag, it's what develops top conversion path, it develops everything. Without this, you're running like a standard shopping campaign without remarketing. It's that much difference. So with ecom prod ID firing, all of a sudden now we have this thing back up and running. So last 7 days now it's like, oh yeah, we had kind of minimal performance and then boop, it shot up and now we're back in getting our ROAS back up. Ecom prod ID is, I'll give you a way to test this. This website here. When we have our saying firing more than 0%, your ecom prod ID might be firing 10%, 15%. The metrics there that you can find on where it's firing is in here. You want it to be above 0. If it's above 0, you're fine. So ecom prod ID, 17%. Great. All this means is that the ecom prod ID fires on this page, but is empty. And I'll go through this because it gets a little bit technical. It fires on this page because it's empty. Fires on this page, but it's empty. Now fires on this page. So you see that path right there I just told Google my ecom prod ID is only firing 33% of the time. Because ecom prod ID is the product ID. There is no product ID on the home page. There is no product ID on any other pages besides your product page. So all that just means is that 17% of your traffic is looking at the product page. where this is, this refresh. Sometimes this doesn't work very well. I noticed that Google Tag Assistant doesn't always function the way that it should. But inside of your tag manager code, under data layer, you'll have this ecom prod ID, and then I'll have your product ID here. So if you have an issue, or if it says one issue, or if it says, yeah, see, this just popped up in my account, issue 100% of IDs values received in the past didn't match your feed. Now that's not necessarily ecom prod ID, that's product ID. Here's the bad part about this is theme reliant. If I look at Purposeful Baskets, the one that we did the 3x Shopify for, this is my standard theme, the free theme inside of my free theme inside of what's it called? Shopify. The way that we structured this up is by looking through by installing those tracking codes. Again, this one right here, ecom prod ID is firing, and there's ID. It is heavily theme based. This is where Google Tag Implementation Team is a free team from Google. They will go in and fix this for you. All you need to do is just hop on a call with them. They say, yeah, go here, go here, go here, go here. And they say, okay, enter this code here. Since it's theme based, I don't have a way to fix this for everyone. Thank God Beta had a really good developer and they were able to hop in and he said, oh, okay, yep, I got this firing. It's a theme issue. It's not Google issue. Google tries to call it and the theme has to send it. The standard implementation I showed everyone will be perfect. It'll give all of the stuff, brand, category, price, variant, IDs, ecom prod ID, that will work perfectly. Your theme will be dependent upon if it does not fire properly. So I wish I had a fix for everyone, but if you do hop into Audience Manager and you see an issue, if you see an issue here, or it'll pop up and it'll say one issue, it'll look like this over here. One issue, red. When you hop in there, you'll see that it'll give you the error, which I know that how you just have now. This is a time for you to reach out to the Google Tag Implementation Team. I think we have a link. I'll have to find that link here. Kasim, would you be able to hop into the Specialist and CM channel and say, do we have an email for the Google Tag Implementation Team?
Yep.
Cool, thank you. We're gonna get we'll get an email. Sometimes the emails you have to follow up with them a few times because they're busy, but normally you can get a hold of them pretty well, and they'll hop on a call and they'll say, hey, all we need is just your backend access, and they'll fix this. We already know how to fix this one here. This one's just because the remarketing list on their analytics fell off because the codes fell off, and so we had to go through and re-upload everything. So that's what we're currently working with now. But my opinion, don't run anything if you have that issue. Unfortunately, what I can share with you will work. Just it won't work 100% of the time for everyone. It is theme based, and I wish I had a solution, but I don't, because I can't tell you the solution for every single possible theme. It's dependent upon whoever built the theme. That's why this is checked. You can see that it would go from under 200% ROAS campaign up to 500% just by fixing ecom prod ID. It's that powerful. Make sure to track with budget. Make sure we're close in ROAS goal. CTM review. This is if you're using a call tracking metrics account and you're having calls come in and you want to have all of the money that's coming in from those calls being attributed back to the campaign. We're not going to go through that here. I don't expect that to be an issue. If in the future someone says, yeah, I'd like to actually start taking calls and taking phone orders, and I'd like to get that back into Google Ads, we can cover that. I just don't think that anybody's going to be in a good position to do that yet. There's reasons for using call tracking metrics, like if you have $40,000, $50,000 products that people are not just going to add to cart and buy, they will call in order.